Depending on how your partner enjoys it.
Now smack it.
Welcome to the high quality and professional BAMF podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Co-host
Hey,
Jacob
everybody.
Blackman. Hey, Jacob, how you doing? We are here interviewing also frequent co-host Walt about his new audiobook. How you doing, Walt?
Smack it.
Smack it. That is the title of Walt's new book.
Yes.
It's going to sell very well. Actually, here is the title of Walt's new. Actually, it's not a new book, but it is a new audiobook.
Right on.
2 in the Hunter's Moon series, the Revenant, and that is some beautiful cover work there.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with fluffy death machine there.
Fluff Bang Doom Snuggle.
Fluffy Doom Snuggle.
Everybody loves him. Everybody loves him.
Well, I'm playing around with those different page architecture buttons since you mentioned them to me the other night, Walt. And hey, this is kind of cool.
Yeah. So. The other thing about this architecture too is that when you bring up like banners or anything else up on the screen, the last guy in the box doesn't get like shuttered over by like an overlay. So it just kind of like drops us down and doesn't hide anybody's face.
Well, we're all very good looking, so that's good.
But yeah, this book was a lot of fun to write. One of the big, I've said this before. The first book was a little bit of a nightmare because when it got picked up by a publisher, they wanted me to restructure it. So there was a lot of like shifting things back and forth. So, some things that I had written a different way that I really enjoyed kind of got cut down and kind of like crammed into space to fit what needed to happen. But in this one, I could just write. Judging by the reviews, it's a much tighter book. There's a lot more character interaction. You learn much more about the characters, especially the two main characters, which are Lasher and then his buddy that's on the cover. That would be Fluff, the murderous mountain of mecha mayhem. I have been yelled at several times by my editors and the narrators to stop using alliteration or they're going to hunt me down.
Well, you're an old school Marvel guy. It's hard to get that Stan Lee out of your head, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's the kind of reading I enjoy because it's wonderful in your brain. I imagine for the audiobook readers, it's kind of annoying though.
Right. Well, I practiced it several times to make sure that it wasn't going to totally throw off a narrator. There's one of the members of the crew is this guy named Kel, and he's a former gangbanger that gets rescued in the first book, and he has like a kind of like a best bud relationship with the robotic panther, and he's constantly calling him names, and he's like, "Come here, Murder Mouth," or "Hey, Mecha Mayhem." Nobody wants your opinion. Like they're constantly like insulting each other back and forth, but it's like that good-natured ribbing between you and a good buddy, but like he says stuff like that a lot. So I said it out loud a few times, which, if you're by yourself and you're practicing that to, kind of help out a narrator, not a big deal. If you're sitting at a traffic light when the windows are open and you yell out, "Hey, listen, Murder Mouth." Yeah. People kind of have a tendency to look at you at the stoplight like, we need to call the police.
All right. Yeah, it reminds me of, I've had several friends in high school or college who think they would hate each other because their entire relationship pretty much consisted of colorful insults thrown at each other almost constantly. But we all have our different love languages, don't we?
It's true. But yeah, this one takes place sometime after the first one, and they've the members who have kind of like the team that kind of like coalesced and escaped the first book have put together like a mini cartel, and they are executing crimes all over the frontier as a mask for finding the person who killed the main character's mom. So, and it's a lot, it turns into like a big caper toward the end that culminates in a pretty big fight. But you were asking before the were asking before the live button went on,
Mhm.
what was kind of like one of the big things that you encounter when you're doing audio. And I'm going to put my screen up. If you look at my screen right now,
Yep, 1 sec. Let me get that for you.
there we go. All right. So this is a pronunciation guide. This is like one of the things that you'll get back from a narrator so that they'll look at stuff and be like, hey, look, how do you pronounce this so that I don't sound like an idiot? And this is the pronunciation guide for 3 books. So, I mean, it's not just one book where it was like,
I'm glad you guys are doing this because I've been listening to audiobooks for the Song of Ice and Fire series.
mhm.
And because it's, well, George R.R. Martin, those books are years and years apart.
Yeah.
And pronunciations and even accents of main characters can change radically from book to book.
And that's the thing. A narrator will oftentimes have a character guide inside of the pronunciation.
Mhm.
So, like, for example, next to Doom Snuggle, talks like a 45-year-long cigar smoker. Right. So like he's got that very heavy, like that deep scratchy, certain characters are supposed to have accents. Certain characters are supposed to have speech impediments, things they do to kind of differentiate them from other people on audio. Another big thing with audio too is like, especially with military science fiction, one of the big things in military science fiction and military fiction in general is nomenclature. Like, for example, I was listening to a audiobook, and it was it was like a historical account of do you know what Mac v SOG is? Have you ever heard of that?
That's a new one to me. No, I haven't.
Mac v SOG was the Military Airlift Command Vietnam Special Observations and Studies Group, and it was a clandestine CIA kind of like mishmash.
Is that Air America?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It was a CIA mishmash that used import-export as a way to do some pretty shady shit in the country. So, like, for example, you have stuff like that. You have stuff like I was reading a book on that Mac v SOG thing. I was listening to it via Audible, and the guy kept saying M203. M203, and I'm like, oh God, please stop, because the M203 is a grenade launcher that fits on. It's a 40 millimeter grenade launcher that fits on the underside of a rifle, right? And certain rifles, like they had just started like making entrance to the country back in the late 60s, early 70s in Vietnam. As a transitional piece from the M79, which was the old breakdown, shove the grenade in, go like that, and then light it off. But like, that stuff like that. There's a very popular sci-fi series out there where they kept mispronouncing the word corpsman, which is the Marine Corps doesn't have their own medics. The medics come from the Navy, and the Navy medics are referred to as corpsmen. But they kept mispronouncing that because core is obviously not spelled CORE.
They kept calling him corpsman.
Yeah, well, but I mean, that's a common mistake because like there's a very popular podcast out there that talks about like DC animated comics and movies and all sorts of stuff. And they kept saying the Green Lantern Corps.
Oh, Jesus.
And I sent them a note. I sent them a note and I was like, look, your last 3 episodes have been about the Green Lantern Corps. That word you keep saying is not corpse as in dead body. It's core as in the core of a planet. Please stop saying corpse. It's awful. Apparently,
unfortunately, there are lots of people who only know words through the means of reading.
Yeah.
Like there was a really popular role playing game that I played called Night Spawn. They later changed it to Nightbane by Palladium.
Yeah, because they got sued.
and they used a lot of different words that were not standard words in people's vocabulary, and one of them being facade. I had never heard the word facade, so because of the way it's spelled, I always, in my mind, it was facade.
Yeah.
And when I actually started to play the game with someone who knew the word facade, they were like, "It's facade." And it's like, okay.
Yeah, tell me what.
I've only ever heard this word in my mind. I've never heard it pronounced. I don't speak French. I apologize. You don't have to be a jerk about it. Just say, I understand you don't have this word. It's facade. You're pronouncing it improperly. Here's how it's like, don't be a jerk about pronunciations.
Yeah, that's why I sent the guy a note. I was like, hey, listen, just so that you know, it's not corpse as in dead body, blah blah blah. And he sent me a nice note back too. He's like, hey, thanks for the heads up. He's like, you're number 41 of the 244 emails we got.
Yeah, it's a thing. I have a good friend of mine who's almost broken up with her boyfriend, who has a junior high education from Texas. So many times because he keeps using your versus your, possessive versus, whatever, in text. That drives her crazy because she has an English degree. And I'm like, but he's a nice guy, right? But
I love that. I love what's that meme that's out there right now because of Veterans Day, and it's like, the only reason that people go in the military is because they're uneducated, and your spelling sucks, and she spelled "your" wrong.
Yeah.
And the Marine, I guess, replies to the tweet, and then with the correct spelling.
Oh man, when the Marine calls you out, that's bad.
Yeah.
Where my wife grew up in North Dakota, she's a veteran, military intelligence, and there just weren't jobs. You either got a job, one of the few hospitals or small businesses, or you went to the military, and they had 3 kids in their family. 2 of them went into the Navy. Well, one went in the Army, one went in the Navy, and the little brother stayed home and learned how to weld and went to a union machine shop. And it was rural North Dakota. It was pretty much that, or grow corn. There wasn't much else to do. So anyway, we're not talking about Walt's book. We're talking about North Dakota.
We should talk about the book. The book is wonderful.
Thanks, man.
I've read the first book. I am still in the middle of the second book here. And I've been enjoying it. The first one I had some problems with that you're introducing a lot of characters all at once, and I get that becomes more relevant. Those characters become more relevant as the book goes, and that's great. But please, man, you probably could have spread that out a bit.
Yeah, it was that. I mean, God, that was now written almost 4 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
So it was there was a learning process involved. So now writing is a lot tighter. I usually use multiple editors now instead of just the one. And that, like I said, that one went through multiple rewrites to accommodate it for audio. So it was so yes, that is one of the things I am now cognizant of, and one of the things that I watch out for, because like I said, one of the primary genres that this was written for was military science fiction, and coming from a military background, it's not just like Band of Brothers where you're dealing with one squad. Most of the time in big units, you have to deal with lots of people at once.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, maybe that'll translate well to a novel.
No, not really.
So much. Yeah.
No, it really doesn't. There's a reason they only sent one unit of Colonial Marines to investigate LV-456, was it?
Yeah.
Because that way you would only have to learn a certain amount of names.
Yeah. And because that was the one thing, when I had watched that movie, 2-3 years after I got in the Army, a bunch of us sat down and we had got it on VHS, high def VHS. And we were like, oh, we had a big screen TV. It was going to be awesome. We're all sitting there and we're like, why'd they only send 6 dudes? Shouldn't this have been a platoon? And where's the rest of the people running that starship? And they're like, is there a coffee shop in that starship? There needs to be a coffee shop in that starship.
Yeah. Well, the jokes on that aside, yes, there should have been more when you honestly think about it, but you certainly don't have that problem with your own books. Your characters feel fleshed out. They feel like they're different people, and
I appreciate that. Thank you.
The story is pretty neat. I've been enjoying it. It really captures you, and I love how you also make your robots. Even there are very few robots in this, but the AIs and some of their personalities are just, oh my god, like the suit of mecha armor that gets dropped.
Oh
that
yeah,
one guy climbs into, and he's just chatting away with the AI personalities,
and she
blowing
keeps
away as he's blowing away enemy robots. He's like,
she keeps telling him to focus.
I thought that was great because, in a lot of media, let's say like Aliens, there are maybe 2 personalities for all robots.
Yep.
And either really good or murderous. And Star Wars, maybe you have 3 personalities if you count the Solo movie where they had a sexy robot. Otherwise, it's mischievous hacker or stiff. Okay, I forgot the assassin droid. But yeah, you've got a fun, interesting, diverse cast of AIs and robots. I really enjoyed that. I read the first book. Really enjoyed it. I thought took a while for me to get hooked once I was into it. The review I've been writing in my head is going to describe it as I was going to say a fun mix of Star Wars and Generation Kill, but apparently you and I are the only 2 people we ever talked to who knows Generation Kill is, Walt. So I'll have to find some other modern military, maybe 3 Kings or I don't know.
Honestly, I'd compare it more to Aliens, the second movie, than I would to anything else, because that kind of military thinking really went into this, and from when it comes to science fiction, most military guys that I know point at Aliens. It's like that's what they do. That's how they think.
Yeah.
Military sci-fi is an odd bird in that it's a really popular literary genre that doesn't get a lot of service on the screen.
And it's crazy too, because like right now there is like you have to really stand out if you're going to write military science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Revenant is and of course the first book, The Mongrel, are really pegged toward like hard space opera / military science fiction, because military science fiction as like just a regular genre, you have some really heavy hitters that you're going to have to try and swing for the fences on. You got guys like Rick Partlow, you got guys like Scott Moon, Josh Hayes. If you really want to throw it in there, you have the guys I work for, which is Jason Anspach and Nick Cole. I mean, their military science fiction stuff is like the gold standard, so I mean, you are swinging for some pretty high fences if you're going to just jump into military science fiction. Keystroke Medium, which is a group of authors that I normally work with, and they're all making fun of me right now because they're in Vegas and I'm not. But anyway,
I didn't realize they were doing that convention this year. I guess.
Yeah, 20 books to 50K. Yeah, they're all there. They're all right now doing their thing. Yeah, with Keystroke Medium, they were doing an anthology, and I was like, it was a space opera anthology, and I'm like, yeah, I think I have something I can make work. And I had made it into the last one when I wrote what I did for their space opera anthology. They were like, yeah, the only reason we didn't pick it was because this is like military science fiction and horror. Aliens meets Event Horizon. You need to write this. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. I really wanted to be in the book, though.
Yeah, I understand. So I just am shocked. Hey, we have a watcher. Hey, thanks, viewer. Say hi. Oh, you did say hi. Who is this? It's Chuck Rice.
Chuck Rice. I love Chuck.
I love Chuck, too. Chuck, if you ever want to be a co-host, man, hit me up. I'm glad to have you on. So, yeah, Chuck is a legend in the RPG field.
He is. I have like 9 of his books sitting right next to me.
I have several in close reach myself. So, sweet. Wow, so excited that Chuck was in our comments. Whatever I was going to say just left my head completely. So.
But yeah, military science fiction is a really, really big genre. So if you're going to try and get into that, you have to have something like that knocks it out of the park. Like Rick Partlow has his Drop Trooper series that is really, really good. And it resonated with a lot of vets because there were more than a few of us that, stood in front of a judge and they're like, well, listen, here's the deal. We know you stole a car, got drunk, and then ran over somebody's cow. But seeing as you're only 17, you can probably run back from this. Why don't you go in the Army, or I'm going to send you to jail? Oh, thanks, Dale. So yeah, there's and that's kind of like the premise of Drop Trooper is this guy gets like taken into the like the Space Marines, but he has an aptitude toward a certain type of like mental linking that allows him to pilot a battle suit. And it's a really good book. It's really fun because it really goes into that culture of what happens if we let government go too far. If we allow a government to control every aspect of our lives, what does that do to us as a society, and what will we do to escape that? It was a really interesting read. And then, of course, obviously the combat scenes and the fights inside the book were really, really good as well. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's tons of great, really amazing stuff out there. That if you're going to get into military science fiction, you better swing hard, because it's becoming a crowded genre. It's becoming a genre with really good writers in it. People are doing amazing stuff. Like I believe it was Richard Fox did one of his audiobooks with Jonathan Brazee, who is so Rich Fox is a retired Army officer, and Jonathan Brazee is a retired Marine Corps officer, and they wrote a book where each person took a perspective from two sides of a war, and they wrote in opposite perspectives. And what happened was, for the audiobook, have you guys ever seen The Last Ship?
Yeah. I watched it for a couple of the first episodes of that.
So the dude with like the iron jaw who's the commander of the ship?
Yeah.
So he's the voice of one of the narrators in the book. The other narrator of the book is Giancarlo Esposito.
Holy shit. El Pollo Hermano.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. My dad was a happy Veterans Day. My dad's a vet. He was in during Vietnam, but he was stationed in Europe, and he retired from the reserves as a major. And he's loving your stuff so far.
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
Yes! Thank you.
I was trying to subtly step back talking about your books since I got your cover up there.
Nice. But yeah, so as soon as I get my next Audible credit, right on, dude. Right on. Oh, excellent. Yeah, it just dropped on November 1st. I was super stoked. They sent me a note because I'm so head down on the keyboard right now, just slamming everything. The guys over at Athon Books was like, hey, bud, surprise, and then sent me the link. And I'm like, and, I ran around squealing like a little schoolgirl for a few minutes. And, of course, I had to spend a credit of my own on getting the book. So yeah, but it's what do you call it? It's really cool to have this kind of all happening and have so many people who are being very kind and of the good reviews, they are very excited. Of the bad reviews, they're actually pointing out some things I can fix and how I can kind of like adjust things. So I mean, it's been a really great experience. I don't think I've had one person who's been like, yeah, this is stupid. All the reviews have been either very positive or very helpful. So that was really good.
It's nice when you get useful bad reviews.
Yeah. But it's always great when you get that review that was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Write 3 more.
It is pretty happy when you get those kind of fans. Yes.
I think Dale is requesting a RPG version of Thunder's Moon.
Well, if you need to any of your of those needs met, I can help you, and I can help you right now. Let's see. If we go to this particular website called that, and then we go like this, and then we share our screen like that. There you go. You have a bunch of Hunter's Moon products already up.
He's been waiting for this moment for years.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's arrived.
So Hunter's Moon Ghost in the Machine is an adventure that's kind of like on a space station. And then we got Gone But Not Forgotten. That is a kind of like a planetary adventure that is almost like a mini campaign. It's a really big book. It's like 50 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shadows on Starlight, White Star Black Ops is would allow your White Star game to play along the lines of like Hunter's Moon. So criminals, cartels, mercenaries. So yeah, it was a fun book to write. It was a fun book to get published. It's in hardback and softback. So yeah, a lot of fun. So if you want to play a little Ghost in the Machine, little Hunter's Moon at the table, I already got you covered, fam.
Sweet. And
that's for the White Star RPG?
Yeah, so it's really easy. Thanks, Rob. Sparky. Oh my God. This is he's one of our frequent collaborators over on Sci-Fi Writers. Thank you, man. Thanks for the support. I appreciate it. Your tax dollars allowed me to be absolutely crazy and full of injuries by the time I was 30. Nice. Rob saying if he stops losing his voice, he's going to run some White Star Hunter's Moon. So,
yeah. Well, I understand you got to be careful these days. There's a lot of, in addition to the pandemic, there's a regular flu season happening. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been licking toilets regularly. That way I can build up my immune system.
Jacob, don't kink shame. Don't kink shame.
You know, I was going to say it was my Marine in the wrong uniform, but you know. But yeah, that is the kind of quality humor you could expect in all of my books.
All right. Well, alas, I would like to talk to you guys for another hour or so, but I've got to go do a meeting over on this laptop. So
excellent. So yeah, so second book out now. First book obviously out on Audible as well.
Mm-hmm.
Third book, I believe, beginning or middle of December. I know they're recording it right now because they said that big sheet we were looking at earlier.
Yep.
That was the pronunciation guide for the last of the books. So they're recording it right now. And yeah, so pick it up if you gotta, if you're looking to get something into your ear holes. Right on, man. Right on.
Cool. So, just out of curiosity, do you like it? How active are you in the recording of the audiobook? Do they call you and ask you to listen to, hey, we did this 5 minutes here. What do you think about this? Or is it more just hands off until the whole thing's done?
It depends on the company.
Okay.
With these guys, we licensed the book through Blackstone Audio. So they have the audio rights. And they were very, don't worry, we'll take care of everything. Here's a pronunciation guide. Make sure we're pronouncing everything properly. Thank you. We'll talk to you in a month.
Okay, cool.
But on my Galaxy's Edge side, we just started the audio process with a gentleman named Peter Nealon, who is normally a thriller writer. He's going to be writing some Forgotten Ruins stuff for us. Mm-hmm. We're putting the audio together, and we got the masters already, and we went through the masters to kind of like set up kind of like reshoots or edits. So it really kind of depends on the company and how they want to play it.
Sweet, good to know. All right, well, hey, always a pleasure talking to you, Walt. Like we don't do it 3 times a week or so.
Right. Hey, thanks for coming on, and thanks for checking out my books, guys. I appreciate it.
I just bought this one this week on Audible, so I'll be listening to it as soon as I finish Hit and Fade, which I'm in the first third of so far. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, but that's a topic for another podcast. So
we should have those guys on to talk about it.
I understand they're hard to get a hold of, but yeah, if you want to see if they're up for a lunchtime interview someday, that would be awesome.
I got you.
All right, cool. All right, I'm going to play our little musical outro just because I like it. So hang on a second. And that music lets you know you've been listening to the high quality, handmade, artisanal podcast created here at the Banff Studios. And we'll catch you next time. See you guys later.